By now, the phrase that once sounded like a sharp critique has evolved into a kind of echo that follows every development, and when Jesse Waters revisits the saga, it feels less like commentary and more like a longitudinal study in institutional reflexes, because what began as a question about a not great start has matured into a broader examination of whether momentum can be reversed through discipline, transparency, and consistency. The sheriff's team is no longer reacting to a single news cycle, but operating inside an extended narrative arc where each new statement either reinforces stability or revives old doubts, and that cumulative pressure is where true leadership is tested, not in the flash of the first press conference, but in the grind of sustained scrutiny. The analysis deepens as Waters shifts focus from optics to outcomes, asking whether the adjustments made in response to early criticism have translated into measurable clarity. Are updates arriving on time? Are questions being answered directly? Is there a visible command presence that signals confidence rather than caution? And he frames these questions not as partisan jabs, but as benchmarks any public institution should expect to meet in an era where accountability is instantaneous and memory is permanent. The modern audience does not simply consume headlines, it archives them, cross-checks them, and revisits them, meaning that improvement must be demonstrable, not merely declared. Inside the sheriff's office, one can imagine the quiet recalibration solidifying into routine, structured briefings, clearer chains of communication, a spokesperson who now projects steadiness born of experience rather than rehearsal, and Waters hints that this is where redemption narratives are forged, not through grand gestures but through repetition, because consistency has a calming effect on public perception, gradually replacing uncertainty with predictability, yet he also cautions that predictability must not slip into opacity, that steadiness must coexist with openness, or else the cycle of skepticism will quietly restart. The community's response becomes more nuanced as well, less polarized than in the early days, more observant than reactive, and this subtle shift suggests that trust, while fragile, is not irreparable, provided there is evidence of learning and adaptation. Waters underscores that in high-visibility cases, the audience often looks for humility as much as authority, for signs that leaders recognize the weight of their role and the impact of their words, and when those signals are present, even critics may recalibrate their stance, acknowledging progress where it is earned. At the same time, the broader conversation about media influence lingers in the background, because commentary itself becomes part of the feedback loop, shaping how institutions respond and how audiences interpret those responses. And Waters reflects on this dynamic with an almost meta-awareness, suggesting that televised critique can act as both spotlight and mirror, illuminating weaknesses while also forcing introspection. And in that interplay between scrutiny and response lies the real drama of modern governance. The stakes, however, remain high, because reputational recovery is not guaranteed, and a single misstep can reopen old narratives in an instant, which is why Waters emphasizes vigilance. The understanding that progress must be protected through sustained professionalism, that the lesson of a rocky beginning is not simply to avoid embarrassment, but to institutionalize preparedness, so that the next challenge is met not with hesitation, but with practiced clarity. In this way, the sheriff's team stands not just at the end of a story, but at the threshold of its next test. And as this segment closes, the tone turns reflective yet charged with possibility, with Waters offering a final analytical note that resonates beyond this single case. Leadership in the public eye is a marathon, not a sprint, and while a not great start can shape perception, it does not dictate destiny, provided that those in charge choose growth over defensiveness and transparency over silence. The cameras may eventually pivot to new headlines, but the lessons carved out in these weeks about communication, resilience, and accountability will linger, and for viewers still watching, the enduring question is not how the story began, but whether the ending proves that institutions can evolve under pressure, a question that invites discussion, reflection, and continued engagement long after the segment fades to black.